we did break to the upside in XRP BTC pair and still respecting the long-term support level in XRP USD. And all of this is happening with a doubling volume, which is really important to notice as things get interesting. With a bit more regulatory clarity, it's worth listening to David Shaw's statements made here. We'll actually go through a couple of important points which he stated in that Forbes discussion. We'll go through that. It really shows what is happening behind the scenes and how we can prepare. And that is a lot of that seems to be, and whatever he stated from that, it seems to be planted on the developments around us. When we look around and see what is happening with payments being highlighted by BIS, Bank of International Settlement, About Crypto and DLT, and then SAMA, Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, highlighting things about their project with Ripple. And yes, XRP is mentioned there. XRP is used in that kind of business deal with them. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. If you saw value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. And if you would like to extend your support, you can use the PayPal, Patreon, or the XRP wallet address to support the channel. Now, when we look at different aspects now, we do have positive things going around when the price is also going to the upside, but there are things to look out in a bit more generous way. If you're being conservative, looking at all the different angles, there are things to be cautioned. Now, at the same time, do understand the fundamental is totally strong. Just in technical analysis, there is something which should be considered, but we'll go through all of them in this episode. Some of the key points in this Forbes discussion here is like, it really means a lot when they talk about how things are evolving. So let's listen to some of the important points here. I've just picked up 5-6 areas which David Shaw talks about in general aspect with an introductory from the Forbes guy itself. So let's tune in.
We decided to stay true to the heart of the list and make an event with a small but powerful audience in mind. The decision makers at the largest companies in the world working with or considering working with blockchain. Because blockchain and distributed ledger networks are only as powerful as the number of counterparties using them, we've asked our guests to take a bit of a risk. We've asked them.
So in that introduction, it really highlights a network's value increases as the number of nodes in that network increases, meaning the number of partners in different geographical areas or within the same area kind of gives that network a bit more edge. And that is when we are happy to say Ripple is working with central banks, monetary authorities around the globe, and they highlight it in their reports. Say this particular one is really important when we look at this thing. Say, when we are focusing on everything, this report is actually sponsored by Dubai International Financial Center. And in their report, they are highlighting Ripple's XRP in blockchain and cryptocurrency. Now, that is in relation to Arabic region monetary authority. That really is important because Saudi Arabia's central bank secured a deal with US-based Ripple to adopt blockchain solutions for cross-border payments using digital currency. Don't miss out that one. Even though that is stated at the end of that sentence, it really is important. You have to focus here. They have secured a deal back in 2018 for what? Cross-border payments using what? A digital currency. So never neglect that in this respect. Now let's continue with this.
I have to say that the coronavirus pandemic affected payments less than I would have thought, and probably less than it's affected a lot of other spaces, because the global economy is not that. Obviously, specific sectors are affected, but like remittances are still taking place and so on. There were a couple of things. So one significant effect is that we did have a couple of months without growth. And like you're in a business that's expecting these huge, quarter-on-quarter growth figures. And we had a couple months in which our customers just weren't willing to move because they didn't know yet how they would be affected. So if you don't know, are you going to be able to hire people? Are you going to have to fire people? Is your business going to change? Obviously, you're not going to be terribly interested in starting an aggressive new project when you have that kind of uncertainty. So we did see a slow slowdown in partner movement. Our sales team had to completely relearn like how to do sales remotely, rather because sales is very based on face-to-face. Our teams already pretty much knew how to work remote. We're a global company, so that helped us. It's been a hiring opportunity for us because a lot of companies have been reducing their labor force. But one thing that's very challenging is when you've worked for a company for a while, you build in-person relationships. You walk past people's desks, you sit down at the table with them, and it's very difficult to integrate new employees.
Some of the key takeaways from what he just stated there is, this company, Ripple, is expanding. They are announcing new projects, and they are announcing new things, right? Along with hiring new profiles to that company. So in that beginning, he stated that during the pandemic, health crisis, which is turning into the economic crisis, many companies are actually laying off and they are hesitant to start a new project and moving on because they are not certain about the future. But here for Ripple, the company, they are so talented, they understand that their value proposition is really important to the world. Why? Because it's not only them believing that the area which they are focusing is being highlighted even by the IMF, which is remittance, right? This is all happening in the background. And he stated pandemic has not really much affected the remittance corridor, one of the cross-border payment area where Ripple company focuses, right? And then he states they are all preparing for many different things in this market, right? Now, let's continue.
Already has a business use case and you tell them we're going to make you a little bit more efficient, you can have massive volume as soon as you're operational because they can switch from whatever they're using now to whatever you're offering them and get an immediate savings. If you're talking about making something transformational and brand new available, like obviously that's much more inspiring. You go to the customer and you say, we're going to enable you to like get a whole new bunch of customers, a whole new revenue stream. The problem is, even if you deploy that project successfully day one, because it's a new product with new customers, they have zero volume. And so even if they're going to see exponential growth at the start is very slow.
That is one of the important points which I would like to highlight in this one. Exponential growth, not in the start, but in the long term. And why does he think that? Because this is a transformational technology is highlighting that, yes, even though you have a product which has an exceptional use case, which solves a lot of business pain points and issues, the business problems, still, as it is transformational, in the initial phase, it's really hard. So if you are an investor, as he highlights, the volume is low, and previously also David has highlighted that the volume in XRP network, the XRP ledger, is really important to what they are doing. And in that aspect, we, some of the traders, investors in XRP ledger, even though it would be small amount, say 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 XRPs, what we are holding on to and adding more liquidity into the market by accumulating or trading in the market, it really makes sense that the volume is supported by speculation as of now. But these speculators are kind of a backbone in the early days for XRP ledger because they need that liquidity, right? So when they are talking about exponential growth, those who understand this value proposition, they would be benefiting from that exponential growth. But if you are looking just in a short time frame, you won't be actually able to see that. You should be looking at the larger perspective and to understand where we are all headed in this, right? Now, let's directly jump into the next part of this one.
What they want to get out of it. You can have two sort of approaches. One of them is the sort of self-help approach that like Ethereum did, where you launch 1,000 ships and if 990 of them sink, that's fine. You got 10 that didn't sink and they're proving real world value. That's great. But obviously, if you need like a high touch environment where you have to work with that customer, you can't launch 1,000 ships. Like it's expensive and it's prohibitive. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what you want out of the proof of concept and what the other side wants out of the proof of concept and make sure that there's an alignment so that both sides either will deem it a success if one side gets what they want, the other side gets what they want too. Typically, you're usually in the vicinity where proof of concepts are precious, and if they fail, you feel like your product failed. And so if the proof of concept is precious and it's high touch and it's a partnership that both sides want to announce, they have to make sure they want the same thing, and there has to be product market fit. It has to solve a problem the customer actually has.
It has to solve that actual problem which the customer has, and that kind of takes us back in 2018. Sam announced this one, right? The use of digital currency for cross-border payments from Saudi, partnering with US-based Ripple company. And now when you look at their announcement after a year, this is like cross-border transfer service. Now, do understand, while they went into successful pilots and then they went into production, the production looks like here they are not using the digital asset. Instead, they are only going for the software, X-current or now on-demand liquidity, but they are not using it. Why? Because they don't have that regulatory clarity at both ends. But do look at this. It looks like it is winning awards based on how they are innovating. So the pillars raised by the technology is kind of the way they are moving forward. So what we listen here is kind of 100% true to our knowledge based on all what we can see here. Now, when we talk about further things, we do have to understand that Ripple, the company, shows how hard it is at the beginning and how hard it is to move, right? And that's what we have to listen and understand to.
All right, how big a challenge you can take on, like what's the set of use cases that you're going to address? And if you start out too broad or you make customizations for every customer, you're not good at anything. You're okay at everything and not good at anything. And it's much more important to pick a real problem that has, a significant use case and solve that thoroughly.
Yeah, and from a hyper
kind of pivoted from originally people would come to us with very specific problems, like Santander had specific payment issues within their own business units that they said, hey, can your software solve that? And we said, yes, it can. And it's evolved to sort of a network proposition where the idea is just like the internet. When I sell you the internet, I don't necessarily tell you specific problems you have that it can solve. The idea is that everything is there. It's like it's your sort of one-stop shop for something. And our network now with 300 partners or so, it's now at the point where it's almost a marketing tool for our customers. So if let's say you're a payment company and you can clear shekels into Israel, we will go and look for banks or payment companies that need to do that. So we kind of become a marketing arm for the customer to sell the services that they need and find them new customers and peers. So it's that sort of pivot from a series of point connections to a network solution. That's that very interesting inflection point. And I think that applies to a lot of blockchain businesses where you're trying to pull people onto a platform. And once there's enough on that platform, it completely changes the value of that platform and the way people think about it.
So the value is being changed. You have to understand, as more and more customers are here and they are being announced after, the non-disclosure agreements, you have to understand the value will surge immediately. Because just 1 year back, we understood that the rate of adoption into RippleNet is increasing. And even at that time, they had like 300, 350 partners and announced. So that is kind of, something huge what we can understand. And do understand they are now working on different corridors. And this kind of validates that, right? They're moving into different geographical region and then finding new corridors for their existing customers so that they can reach or expand into different region. And that's what we are seeing all across the board. The partners of Ripple are expanding. We've been going through those kind of news in last 6 months a lot of time, right? And that really gives us that confidence level that Ripple, the company, is doing something huge. And that is the reason why when the world is going through different issues, their customers is kind of expanding, and that is a key to understand. Now, the next point here would be, what is Ripple? And it surely is the internet of money for public, private, blockchains, or even DeFi and all. It's all going to be connected with XRP Ledger, either via ILP or directly because they have that network ability.
I think that if we want to have customers, they have to have great experiences. And customers want different things. They're in different countries. Some of them are underbanked. Some of them are overbanked. Some of them want to get revenue. Some of them have local currencies that they don't like. They want exposure to the dollar. Some of them, they want all these different things. And I think it's instructive to look at the internet. Like, why is the internet so great? Because whatever you want, it has it. It offers a broad array of things that are like whatever you want. Like, the internet's going to have it somewhere. If we build an ecosystem like that, that's what's going to be compelling. And that's going to mean public chains. It's going to mean private chains. It's going to mean DeFi. It's going to mean that it gives everybody what they want. And sure, there will be some things that are more successful than others because there are some things that people want that are more popular.
So that's kind of highlighting that, even though they are not concentrating on a wide range of things, they are focusing only on payments. And now they are doing it well. Inside the payments, they are focusing on all the different factors, trying to get their customers maximum value. And this kind of things are really important to that. Why? The Ripple, the company, is having pilot programs with different central banks, and BIS, Central Bank of Central Banks, which is, it looks like, it kind of highlights the importance of digital currencies, and they highlights, and this statement has to be read twice, and you have to understand the history of Ripple, the company, and the talks made by Brad, the head of innovation department of Bank of International Settlements, believes that the Libra was an alert for central banks. Now, if you remember, back in the day, after those Libra announcements, Brad Garlinghouse on stage informed all of us that after that, now that announcement was good for them, because just after that announcement saying, if they were successful, Western unions of the world would go bankrupt, statement from Calibra members, the Libra members, and then Ripple started receiving calls from everywhere, from banks, corporates, giant central banks, for what? The purpose of that digital currency. So this is really important as we see the success of monetary authorities and central banks, because they are working with Ripple, the company. It really gets important again here. They are gaining legitimacy, right? In early 2018, SAMA was tied up with US company Ripple for cross-border payment solution using digital currency. So think it's not without that. We are not moving without that kind of the usage of digital assets, but you will be seeing these kind of stuff which kind of firstly put the negative approach. If you go through and read all of those stuff and then come and understand what it really is, you'll understand it's just a fussy thing, kind of taking you towards the negative aspect, which is kind of manipulated or manufactured, I'll say. But this is not manufactured. It is a technical assessment in which Ben Gravis has put this on out, and I feel yes, it looks favorable based on the techniques he uses. But if that point gets surpassed, say the price of XRP moves above 0.32, the previous high here, then this is invalidated. Now that's his value proposition in which he's highlighting. And as we now, I just saw this is funny, because as we saw a bit of pump here, and when I was going through Twitter, I saw this. In case you're wondering why XRP pumped, Jed is busy attending a marriage function, so he's not selling in that area. Now, one of the important things to understand based on all of this is the world is having that crisis, and cryptocurrency is being taken in to consideration for investing and their use cases. Now, while we look at the technicals, after all of these fundamental things which we see that it is so important to understand, you really have to look at the factors what we are seeing here. Let it be towards the USD, let it be towards BTC. XRP really looks like it's gonna shine near future. And when I say near future, it won't be like 3 years, 5 years. In next 0 to 12 months or 18 months, we may see a huge price fluctuation, or even reach expectations which no one actually has. Say some says it will reach $5, some says it will reach $30, some says it will reach 3 digits. But it may even go way higher than that, kicking out all of those guys who are going to take that profit and then dragging them back in to chase the market. That's how the smart money would be kicking you out with loss even after you had that initial profit. So that's a game of psychology which is coming at us. So guys, understanding the market is really important. We are bouncing at different levels, but at the same time, you should understand that in a longer time frame, the resistance area will be here around 0.32, but in a shorter time frame, we already reached that overhead resistance. So if we manage to break above this region, reach around 0.26 and then bounce from there, it's going to be really positive. But in the shorter time frame, as we highlighted in yesterday and day before, we are still at this support level. As we showed this candle, I highlighted to you guys that the chances are that we may go to the upside, and then that price action showed you a bearish checkmate here in this design, L shape coming up from the top to the bottom, reaching a support and making that L shape pattern, showing that it's not going downside, and then a pump to the upside towards the resistance. Now, when you say that, do understand on a longer time frame, you are getting that bounce one after another. Say this was a bearish signal, but it turned out to be positive with this candle, and now with this one it shows there is a lot of bullish momentum going on. Now why do I say that? When you look at things, see this one in the daily chart and understand this thing, it really is moving to the upside. If you analyze this particular area, it really shows that we broke above a long-term trend line in RSI. I thought I actually drew that line here. Yeah, if you see here, you can understand this was a resistance turned into resistance, support, resistance, resistance, support, resistance, and now it has been broken to the upside. And the MACD is bouncing there when we are getting long bull shaped candles, and these are really important to look at on a technical platform when you are understanding that there is opportunity and you're going to trade this market. Now that completely depends upon how you look at the market, because as far as I'm concerned, looking at the top 10, top 20 cryptos, what I can see is this time it's XRP which went upside when the rest of the market is kind of staying still, right? So that's actually a positive news. I hope you guys receive value for your time, and if you did, please do support the channel, hit that like and subscribe button, and if you would like to extend your support, you can use PayPal, Patreon, or the XRP wallet address to support the standard of research and presentation presented for you guys in this channel. So I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.